Welcome. My name is Nancy Antonucci, or as I prefer to be called, Nooch, at least in the tarot world. So I am honored to teach at Paganicon again. I really meet some fabulous people here, and I hope this helps. I've been working in tarot for many years, about 35 years, and I am an author of Psychic Tarot, How to Use Your Natural Abilities to Read the Cards. And I have a new book coming out, hopefully in 2021 with Llewellyn, about tarot rituals. So this is actually the first time I've formally taught something from my upcoming book. So you're on the inside there. So what I hope you don't mind, every once in a while I'll be looking at notes and times and things like that. So I'm getting used to the whole, recording presentation thing. And so it might be just a little clunky, but it'll be, believe me, you'll walk away with something. So it'll be worth it. So let me begin with the sharing. So this is entering one card. I had to kind of figure out a way in the book to help people that maybe aren't that versed in tarot, and even people that are versed. I think there's always a need for ideas for teachers. There's lots of meetup groups and gatherings and just friends getting together, and why not have a way of teaching each other? So it always comes down to, what does the card mean? And what I would say to you, and what I had wished I had done at the very beginning of my tarot love affair, is that I would have actually written a book, my own book. I would have kept track of my own book. And so this exercise is really about creating your own organic book of definitions. So when it comes to learning, what the cards mean to you, I think it has many layers. I kind of think one tarot card, in a way, is like a palette. And the more that you work with it, by reading for others, by reading for yourself, by meditating, by learning traditional meanings, all of those add beautiful layers to the card. And during a reading, a certain layer will actually surface. Sometimes when I look at a card, it really is a traditional meaning of that card. Other times it's the memory that it surfaces for me. So I'm going to kind of approach it with those different ideas of layerings on there. So to begin with, though, when you just some ideas about how to create your own book, I would highly recommend longhand. I know a lot of us do things by computer and everything, but there is something magical about energy coming out of your hand, and also seeing when you wrote something. And you can tell something by the energy. Say, uh, I use Ellen Lorenzi Prince's Tarot of the Crone from my daily morning pick. I've been using that for, I think, over 8 years now. And if anything very significant happens to me, I make a note right in her definition book. I'll just put the date and then just write a short thing about what happened. And what's so beautiful is when I pick that card and I go and maybe look at the book, I'll see a number of different dates and things that happened, but you can tell from my writing, it was stressful or it was wonderful, or, so even the text itself or the writing itself has energy. So I would highly recommend a loose leaf binder where you can keep adding pages. And you're going to dedicate at least 3 to 4 pages for the minor arcana, for each of the minor arcana. I would dedicate maybe 10 pages for the major arcana. But again, if it's loose leaf, you can just keep adding to it. And this will become kind of your book of tarot over the years. I would suggest also that you're just going to start with like the ace and work through the suit. Or you could do all the aces, all the twos, all the threes together, but ace of swords through the king, Ace of Wands through, and then the major arcana on their own, however you want to categorize it. So it's actually really easy for you to use. I think it's not as, a lot of people record their spreads, what, the cards they picked, but I don't know. In my mind, I actually, will put the cards, maybe write the cards, but just basically just write the message that I got in kind of a haiku form. Because really, that's all I really want to remember is what was the message. I don't know if I ever really go back and really look at the cards again and maybe retranslate them. I firmly, in my mind, or as my style as a reader, because this is an art form, so everybody is going to have their own style and their own language and understanding, that what comes up in that moment is really what has surfaced, is the sacred information. What I got in that time of opening sacred circle, for me, I always open sacred space before I read, that's the message that I need to really get. So I just write the message that I got from the cards, not necessarily if you do track your spreads. So when to record. So again, the different layers of this, to write the cards down. And I would say, if you do the process that we're going to do tonight, that would be like perfect, to record everything that you're getting. If you did this 5 aspect process for each card, that would be amazing. But also, if you don't, you really want to note in any card when you've had a surprising reading or there was a turn in the reading for yourself and others. So if there was like just this kind of surprise insight to that card, that would be a great time to record. So for instance, I was teaching way back in Dinkytown when we had the Open U, Not Learning Annex, that I was really trying to get my students to open up and just really let the imagery talk to them instead of getting caught up in the traditional meaning only. And this one gal was looking at the 8 of Wands, and I just said, no, really just allow yourself to, really, what are you sensing with that 8 of Wands? And she just, in complete frustration, just said, 8 flying sticks, and I just, was so surprised by that and started laughing because I thought, well, she's right. I mean, there's 8 flying sticks. I was thinking maybe something a little more metaphorical or deep, but that's all right. However, what happened for me, because that was that made such an impression on me and her frustration, that it became kind of when a cigar, sometimes a cigar is a cigar card for me, like it is like a reality check card for me. So sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes when I see the 8 of Wands, now you would never see that in a definition of the 8 of Wands, that it's a reality check, or that sometimes a cigar is a cigar card. No, you're going to see rapid communication or huge, fast messages or downloads, or, a lot of creative impulses. But for me, sometimes if the 8 of Wands comes up with a client, I'll just say to myself, you know what? It is what it is. So whatever this is, it is what it is. Just let it go. Don't look any deeper into it. So I would have noted that in my 8 of Wands card section. It's like, okay, not that it becomes that, but it becomes, again, one of those layers that is really, might surface. Another is, writing down anything when you study, if you read books about tarot and stuff, if there's some historical understanding of the card that really, shows you the roots of the card in a different way, you want to write those down. So my example for that is Wald Amberstone in New York City. He runs the tarot school with his wife, Ruth Ann. And Wald and I were having this discussion about the tower. And he really does a lot of historical research. I do not, I don't. And so, but it was fascinating to me because he said one of the origins of the tower card is God created the world. but he didn't know what system he wanted to use. So he decided chaos. The system will be chaos. And he put kingdoms. Created all these little kingdoms, and he made little kings of all these different kingdoms of chaos. But with some reconsideration, he thought, no, I think I'll do nature. I'll make nature the system. That'll be our natural rhythm. So he had to banish chaos. And what he did was banish the kings, and they all went flying out of their kingdoms, and they're continually flying into chaos, and nature came in, or the empress became the system. And that beautiful image of those kings constantly flying, spiraling down into chaos is just so intensely potent to me in terms of tower, because things could happen to you, but it's the long-term effect and consequence that change brings to your life that is really amazing. I mean, that's not something you kind of think about, the long-term effect of tower. So I would note that in tower. After you have an experience with any of the card's symbolism from a dream or insight or event in your life, and even whenever you get a new perspective, just a new perspective of it, even more than the Eight of Wands, where that was a surprising, or a turn of events. This one is more just insights. Like I honestly was just watching a YouTube reader, and I don't even really remember who it was, and I wish I did, because I would love to credit them. But basically they were saying the Ten of Wands is the creative responsibilities that you want to carry. And it was the first time I ever thought of the Ten of Wands besides being kind of a burden or something that you would build from. That made a lot more sense to me, because it was like that stayed true to the element of the wands, So now when I see the Ten of Wands, maybe a layer of that would be, you know what, you're taking on too much right now. You need to really focus and prioritize what you're doing or what you'd like to do, or what you'd like to create. So normally I was trying to see if I could play music, but then I talked to a couple people and they said, if people really want to play music or a soundtrack, during the times when we're doing meditations or the different parts of this exercise, then feel free to just turn on your own Spotify and stuff. Because I think, when I put my own music in, that kind of can distract people, especially if they don't have the same taste that I do. So we're just going to take 3 minutes, and I'm going to time the 3 minutes. Let me get my timer ready. And I just want you to get your deck of cards. And what you're going to do is just really relax, really allow yourself to be in the room that you're in right now, not in the future, not in the past. Just take up your deck, hold your deck for a while. And if you want to shuffle it well. If not, you can just hold it. But you're just going to randomly choose one card, but we are going to create the intention that this is a card that really could open a lot of things for you, so that it has a lot of insights for you. So just going to take 3 minutes, just close your eyes, and I'll just give you a little heads up when we have about 10 seconds. So if you hadn't picked your card by then, you will, or you can. And we have about 25 seconds. All right, so go ahead and take a look at your card. And then let me talk a little bit about the 5 aspects that we're going to do. Whoops, I went one too many there. So the 5 processes that I think would be very helpful are just observing your immediate observations of the card, doing a little research for the card at that time. So you don't have to go deep into research. You could kind of just start the ball rolling. The third aspect is embodiment, whether you move full body or just use your fingers or whatever you are willing, capable, or wanting to do when we're talking about embodiment. Writing, and I'll talk to you about and give you time for each one for the writing, and then a meditation. So we're going to do all 5 processes. I'm briefly giving about 3 minutes for each, so, but when you do this process on your own, you could take your time. Yeah, is there anything else I need? No, I think we can move on with the very first process, which is going to be observation. We'll talk just a little bit about it first, and then I'll give you 3 minutes to actually do that. Wow, that's so interesting. I don't know why. Okay. So you're going to write down just your immediate impressions. You don't want to censor. You don't want to be poetic. You really just want to download what you're really getting. And then take some time and just really breathe and go beyond your initial judgments. And then try to see where the energy of the card really is. How does it move to you? Where do you feel energy is happening? What's the important part of the card, or what's speaking to you? And then any associations or memories that you get from that, and then maybe an overall message that you might perceive at this time. So for those of us that are really seasoned, if you could allow yourself to go to beginner's mind and just let yourself uncensored look at some of these, write a little bit about some of these things. All right, so I'm going to give 3 minutes for this as well, starting now. And we have about a minute left. In just a few seconds, or about 10 seconds left. All righty. So just wondering if you wrote down the title of the card, the number. Did you write anything about the back of the card? Those are some things that sometimes they're just so obvious that we actually we miss them. So often, not often, but when I am asked what my favorite tarot book is, or if, somebody who's really wanting to dive into tarot, where would they start? And honestly, my favorite tarot book is not a tarot book. It is Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards, because it's all about perception. It's how you're perceiving things, what you think you're seeing, what you're actually seeing, how that really is, it's the core of reality, really, is perception. And as tarot readers, what you're able to perceive, not only in the card itself, but the energy around it or from behind it, really starts to build and grow the more you read. All righty. So let's go to the second point, and hopefully it won't jump ahead too much. Okay, it doesn't look like it's going to jump. All right, so now we're going to go to some research. So what you're going to do is you could Google. I don't know if you're using this screen, you won't be able to use another screen, but if you have a tarot book around, or if you have the little white book that came with your deck, anywhere, however you want to look, but just 3 minutes, basically Google. Finding keywords is always really helpful. So like if you Google just the title of the card, you would see things. And I would say, don't write down everything you see. Write down the things that kind of jump at you, that are charged or have energy for you. And also, if you have time, you might want to even just look up a I'm not even saying that right, the number part, and the astrological association of the card, for those of you that have any affinity for those systems or other systems that might help you understand that card. All right, so I'll give you 3 minutes to do that, starting now. And you have about a minute remaining. And then just finish up any thought or idea that you're looking at. All right. So I would highly recommend when you're actually looking at studying some of the origins and the historical parts of the card, I would highly recommend Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom. I just think it's kind of a tarot Bible, really. But also she has a book called Tarot Wisdom, which will actually write down, she correlates or has all the definitions of that card, kind of the historical, which is amazing, to see, oh, is that what Waite was thinking? And that was what Aleister Crowley was thinking. And that, or Marseille, or, it gives you kind of this really short, great overview of the cards. So Tarot Wisdom is another of her books that I kind of is just a must, I think, for people's tarot libraries. All right. So how are you doing? Are you kind of getting inside this card a little bit, or is this card getting inside you? So we're now really going to get it inside this card. And this is the embodiment part of this. So let me share this screen here for you. So what you're going to do is find one aspect or gesture of the card to take on. So let's say you're going to take the pose, close your eyes, and say the card's title 3 times, or the sorry, I didn't mean to share the screen. So to take on a gesture or the energy of the card, say, close your eyes after you strike the pose, and then say a key word 3 times that you found for this card that you really like, or the title of the card 3 times, and then really allow the gesture to kind of go into a slow motion flow somehow, whatever your body, however that resonates with your body. So this is not about your head. This is not about your heart. This is your body, and it has its own wisdom, and will use both your heart and head. This is going to be, I think, when it comes to the 3 minutes already, some people just get done early and just sit and look at their phone or do something else. So what I would say to you is try to do this until it's done. So even though it feels done to you or you don't really want to do it anymore, our bodies, really surprise us if you give them the time. So for instance, the Knight of Pentacles. So you might really be taken by the way he's looking at that pentacle, or she's looking at it. So you would take that pose, close your eyes, and I would say, let's just say when we were doing the research that the key word I found for him was waiting. So I would say waiting, waiting, waiting. And then my body would do whatever it wants to do. Like perhaps it's like, I don't want to wait. I want to fly. I want to move. I want to get beyond this point. I feel stuck. I don't want to be stuck anymore. So, it's just letting your body and your body might not go that way at all, but just allow that everything to actually become energy. Really, the word, the image, the pose, all of those are just energies that could move you in a very different way. So give it a shot. Don't give up either, just really stick with it, even if it feels really kind of weird and awkward. Let's get back up here. All right. And I'm going to start the 3 minutes now. And you have about a minute remaining. And then coming to a close. So just take a minute or two to just jot down just highlights from that. Just again, not trying to manage the information, but allowing your body's wisdom to just speak to you as if, in a way, as if you had a dream. So just write down things, highlights, what it made you feel, where you felt your body took you. And then just kind of come to a closure with that. You can always fill that in a little later. So this next section is actually my variation of a really beautiful exercise that I learned from Rachel Pollack. She taught this in the Twin Cities. This is where I learned it, in the Twin Cities. I'd say about 30 years ago now, when I first met her. And it just had such an effect on me as a teacher. I mean, I've just been teaching it for years and years and kind of developed my own variation of it. But always credit her. I actually feel like Rachel Rachel Pollack and Mary Greer are, I think that they're legendary. They're just legendary doulas of modern tarot as far as I'm concerned. So what you're going to do in this first one is, let me get this screen on so that will help. But we're going to take, about 2 minutes with each section here. So just stay with me. Don't read ahead. Just stay with number 1. And the first thing you're going to do, and you have 2 minutes to do it, is list everything you literally see in the card. So maybe even just a list or a column of everything you see in the card, starting now. And you have about 25 seconds left. Make sure you get every detail, everything you really literally see. All right. Now the next section is writing everything that you sense. And it's really actually not the state of being, it's at the state of being. So everything you sense energetically, what you think is the energy in the card, if there's different characters, what does each character feel? What might have happened before? As if you entered a room, you have a sense of, okay, what happened before this, or where are people going next? So this is what you're sensing, right? Everything you can sense from the card. Also pay attention to the weather itself, the storms, or what would be outside the building, things like that, what you might experience or sense. You got 2 minutes starting now. You have about a minute remaining. Just make things up, really. Use your imagination or let the card trigger more. And just kind of start to wrap that up, 15 seconds. Okay. The third section is I want you to actually pretend like you're talking to a 6-year-old, telling them a bedtime story. And if some of you have not ever done that, I've got to tell you, 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds are the toughest audience I've ever had. Like when they're bored, they're bored. So you need to keep it simple. You need to keep it fantastical. You need to make sure that they don't know what's happening next. So starting with your card, in the moment that you see the card, the moment of this action of your card, you start with once upon a time, and then you just stay fantastical, simple, wild, but keep doing it. Don't end short. Like if you feel like you closed up the story, it's like, well, then, and in the next chapter, so just keep pushing yourself, because when we can get past those little moments of discomfort or boredom or stagnation, some of the richest imagination is on that other side of the wall. So your 2 minutes start now. Once upon a time. And you have about a minute left. So get wild. And then kind of come to a closing, about 15 seconds. Okay. And the very last section of this writing, which to me is like the creme de la creme, is how does that fairy tale reflect your life? What messages in that story are actually meant for you? So 2 minutes to kind of reflect on any part of that story or all of it in terms of how it reflected. And again, if it was like a dream, what do you think the underlying message of the fairy tale was for you? So don't get too rational or logical. Don't make things fit. Allow things to flow and spiral and see if they come to some kind of center for you. So 2 seconds or 2 minutes, and we'll start now. And you have about a minute remaining. And kind of find a closure. You have about 15 seconds. Okay. So we've really looked a lot at this card. We've perceived it. We've sensed it. We've told stories about it. We've let stories emerge from it. But the last one is really, to me, the magic, which is to really go inside the card and imagine that you're one of the very two-dimensional figures in the card, or you're just in the card, but the sides of the card start to expand and they go up, and then they start to expand in a dimensional way. So the card itself is going to start to stretch into a bigger world that it belongs to. And let's just call it the tarot world. So the wands are all in their territory. The swords are all in theirs. The major arcana might be in various mountains or caves or wherever they are in the world, in the tarot world. So this is your entry into tarot world. So you could actually stay in your card, or the card may move you out into some other dimensions or experiences. So this is we'll do 3 minutes. And I just want you to close your eyes, find a really comfortable place, and allow the card to expand into a bigger world. Let me just kind of get those directions on there for you. So, and you want to stay unattached to the outcome. You really want to kind of see where this story may go. Again, sometimes it's hard for for us to visualize. So you just kind of pause. And when you get stuck, you're just going to say the keyword or the title of the card 3 times. So it'll kind of bring you back into the card. And then after 3 minutes, I'll give you another minute or so to note your impressions or your download. So let's take 3 minutes, starting now. And gently start to come back, letting the card come back into its two-dimensional form. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes and just come back into the room softly. Great. And I'll just give you a minute to write down your impressions or what, especially what might have surprised you. So you certainly always want to keep those insights. And then just kind of come to the ending or closing some ideas. Again, you can always write more about this later. So I often, when I teach, I always ask my students afterwards, really when we're just kind of downloading and processing and kind of tying it together for ourselves, I'll often ask, what surprised you? Because scientifically, what I had read, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but that surprise is actually a new neuron is being connected or stimulated, or your brain is like, wait, this is new information, so it will create a new pathway. So surprises are really important to track, because those are little milestones that you're making with your own inner landscape and tarot, which I think is a perfect marriage. So hopefully this really helps you, and look for my new book. It's going to be called Tarot Rituals something something. I don't know what the tagline is at this point. Hopefully by the end of 2021, but you can always check my website at www.betweenworlds.us. And you can always email me with feedback, or if you have any questions, at nucc50@gmail.com. So thank you, and many blessings on your tarot journey.